5,000 years ago, in the land we now call Iraq, a people rose from the dust and built something the world had never seen before: cities. They gave humanity its first known writing, complex mathematics, organized religion, and monumental architecture. They mapped the heavens, divided time, and governed with written laws. And yet, on the clay tablets they left behind, etched by hands that lived and died long before us, they insisted they were not the first teachers. They credited their genius to powerful beings who descended from the heavens, beings they called the Anunnaki. Were these gods simply symbols, elaborate myths meant to explain the forces of nature? Or are the tablets preserving distorted memories of something more? Encounters with advanced outsiders, cultural inheritances long forgotten, or leaders whose deeds became legend? Tonight, we will open the tablets, walk the streets of Uruk and Ur, and sit in the shadow of ziggurats where priests once prayed to the sky. We'll follow the trail of the Anunnaki across myth, archaeology, and astronomy. And we'll ask, who really taught the first civilization how to master time, build cities, and chart the stars? Archaeologists digging in Mesopotamia never expected to unearth a library frozen in clay. And yet, in sites like Ur, Uruk, Eridu, and Nippur, they found thousands of tablets, some shattered, some intact, all inscribed in the world's earliest known writing system. Many recorded ledgers, grain counted, cattle traded, debts owed. But scattered among the mundane were texts that startled scholars. They spoke of beings called the Anunnaki, not abstract forces, not distant deities, but figures who walked among humans, decreed laws, granted kingship, and passed down knowledge. These were not vague myths, but precise lists. Names, genealogies, instructions. The texts credit irrigation systems, metallurgy, mathematics, even astronomy to these gods who came down from the heavens. The Sumerians flourished between 4,500 and 1,900 BC in the land between two rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates. In an environment of scorching summers and unpredictable floods, they built thriving cities. Uruk alone sprawled over 1,000 acres, its walls stretching for miles. They invented the wheel, developed accounting systems, codified laws, and raised monumental ziggurats to the sky. In their temples, priests offered sacrifices to gods whose names recur across tablets. And again, the Anunnaki appear, not on the margins but at the center of creation myths, royal decrees, and cosmic histories. Clay tablets were not meant to outlast eternity, yet by accident of preservation, they became the fossils of human thought. Scribes pressed reeds into wet clay, then dried or baked them. Fires, whether accidental or deliberate, hardened them, allowing thousands to survive 5 millennia. The result is a time capsule, an archive where myth, math, and memory sit side by side. And it is within these lines that the Anunnaki live on. Scholars debate the meaning. Some say the Anunnaki were simply the pantheon of gods, like Zeus or Ra, projected into human affairs. Others argue the detail is too specific, too interwoven with real achievements, to dismiss as mere metaphor. Were the Anunnaki divine archetypes, remembered rulers, or echoes of teachers from an older, forgotten civilization? Southern Mesopotamia was not an easy place to live. Blazing heat, scarce rain, and erratic floods made survival precarious. Yet here the Sumerians carved cities out of dust. At Uruk, temples rose above crowded streets. At Ur, a royal cemetery revealed gold headdresses, musical instruments, and elaborately carved lyres, proof of sophistication and wealth. Archaeologists uncovered houses built of sun-baked brick, courtyards, drainage systems, and schools where young scribes copied lists of signs until their hands ached. These were not simple villages. They were urban hubs, planned, organized, buzzing with trade. By 3200 BC, the Sumerians invented cuneiform writing. At first, it tallied grain and livestock. Then it expanded. Laws, hymns, astronomy, and myths. With writing came history. Humanity stepped from guessing to recording. They pioneered a base 60 math system. Even today, we echo their legacy when we count 60 seconds in a minute or 360 degrees in a circle. They designed canals that transformed deserts into farmland and walls that protected against raiders. They created wheeled carts to move goods and built defensive embankments to control floods. They lacked iron tools, yet raised ziggurats, layered temples of mud brick that soared skyward. Workers molded bricks by the thousands, stacking them into colossal terraces. Priests performed rituals atop platforms that symbolized mountains connecting earth to heaven. Sumer didn't just invent writing. It pioneered the building blocks of civilization: cities, schools, laws, organized religion, trade routes. And in their own words, these achievements were not theirs alone. The tablets credit the Anunnaki as the givers of kingship and law. How did a people surrounded by desert leap so suddenly into urban brilliance? Was it necessity alone, cultural diffusion, or, as the tablets insist, did teachers truly come down to guide them? In Sumerian cosmology, the Anunnaki weren't distant abstractions. They argued, conspired, and intervened in human life. Chief among them was Anu, sovereign of the heavens. Beneath him stood Enlil, lord of wind, storms, and authority. Powerful, often severe. Counterbalancing him was Enki, god of waters and wisdom. Clever, compassionate, a protector of humanity. One of their most striking tales is the flood narrative. Humans, noisy and multiplying, anger Enlil. He resolves to wipe them out with a deluge. But Enki whispers to a chosen man, instructing him to build a vessel. He survives with his family and animals, restarting life after the waters recede. The echoes with later flood myths, Babylon's Atrahasis, the Hebrew Noah, even echoes in Greek tradition, are undeniable. These tales weren't hidden. They were carved into tablets, recited in temples, woven into the identity of entire cities. Kings claimed legitimacy through divine sanction, chosen by Enlil, protected by Enki. Archaeological reliefs show gods seated on thrones, humans standing before them. Some hold rods or mysterious bags. Others are depicted with wings or surrounded by stars. Are these symbolic? Or do they reflect memories of regalia, tools, or even instruments long lost? Myth served politics. Councils of gods mirrored councils of elders. Divine decrees mirrored royal decrees. By embedding authority in divine drama, rulers justified their power. But the detail in these myths, their human quarrels, their technical gifts, raises the question: why not portray them as distant perfection? Why depict them as flawed, emotional, and strikingly human? Unlike gods of distant cultures, the Anunnaki feel close. They hunger, grieve, scheme, and protect. They shape canals and laws, not just storms and harvests. They feel remembered, not invented. Were these tales purely symbolic allegories? Or did they encode cultural memories of real leaders? leaders whose deeds became magnified as gods, their legacies preserved as the Anunnaki. Among the most astonishing Sumerian achievements was their astronomy. Without telescopes, without metal instruments, they mapped the heavens with a precision that continues to baffle modern researchers. Clay tablets record eclipses, the movements of Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, and most famously, the intricate cycles of Venus. The Venus tablet of Amisaduqa, copied centuries later by Babylonians, records the rising and setting of Venus with such accuracy that modern astrophysicists still use it to calibrate ancient chronologies. These tablets were not just myth. They contained data, dates, positions, cycles, calculations. They show an organized, systematic observation of the heavens across generations. The Sumerians lived in flat plains where the sky stretched endlessly. For them, the heavens were a living calendar. Priests and scribes watched nightly, recording the stars on clay. Over time, patterns emerged: lunar eclipses, solstices, planetary conjunctions. What's extraordinary is their accuracy. They distinguished the 5 visible planets from the fixed stars, tracked Venus's dual identity as morning and evening star, and recognized cycles spanning years, even decades. This wasn't casual stargazing. It was institutional science. Their secret was mathematics. The base 60 system made fractions and divisions simple. 60 divides cleanly into halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, and so on. It was perfect for astronomy. From this came hours, minutes, and degrees. Imagine generations of observers, each adding data, each refining tables. Over centuries, accuracy compounded. Yet, even with such dedication, their precision shocks scholars. Could naked-eye observation alone explain it? Or did they inherit seeds of knowledge from older traditions? Göbekli Tepe, 11 millennia old, suggests sky-watching traditions long predated Sumer. Were the Sumerians perfecters rather than inventors? Astronomy governed life. Planting, harvest, and irrigation schedules depended on celestial cycles. Festivals, rituals, and even royal authority hinged on timing decreed by the stars. By mastering the heavens, Sumerians mastered society itself. Were these achievements the product of centuries of patient observers, or echoes of something more, a remembered instruction encoded in the myths of the Anunnaki, those who came down from the heavens? How did Sumer leap from scattered farming villages to urban complexity so quickly? 3 competing theories emerge. The first is gradual observation. Over centuries, specialized scribes and priests accumulated knowledge. They measured fields, tracked harvests, and logged celestial events. Like a river cutting stone, their precision deepened through relentless repetition. The second is cultural diffusion. Mesopotamia was a crossroads. Traders from Anatolia, the Levant, and the Persian Gulf passed through. Ideas, like goods, traveled with them. Archaeological finds link Sumer to faraway cultures. Even older sites, like Çatalhöyük and Göbekli Tepe, prove complex societies existed millennia before. Perhaps fragments of knowledge trickled down, resurfacing in Sumer. The third is encoded memory in myth. The Anunnaki stories align too neatly with Sumer's triumphs. Irrigation, metallurgy, astronomy, mathematics. Were they gods? Or did myths preserve memories of real teachers, engineers, rulers, or outsiders, whose deeds became immortalized? These theories need not exclude one another. Patient scribes refined, traders exchanged, myth sanctified. civilization often grows from braids, not single strands. The Anunnaki may symbolize this fusion, mythic shorthand for a convergence of influences. This debate reflects more than Sumer. It touches the core of civilization's rise. Was progress inevitable, a slow accumulation, or does it erupt suddenly, ignited by outside sparks? When knowledge appears too advanced, too early, do we explain it as coincidence, cultural borrowing, or encoded memory of encounters we no longer understand? Across the tablets, one theme repeats: descent. The Anunnaki came down. They didn't remain distant. They walked among humans, decreed kingship, and instructed in the practical arts of survival: canals, farming, ritual, and law. Epics and hymns describe councils where the Anunnaki deliberate humanity's fate. Reliefs show figures with wings, rods, and mysterious satchels. Cylinder seals depict interactions between gods and humans, sometimes under stars or celestial symbols. Were these purely symbolic, artistic shorthand for power, or do they reflect lived experiences interpreted through myth? In the 20th century, author Zecharia Sitchin proposed the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials from a hidden planet, Nibiru. His ideas spread widely, but were dismissed by scholars for flawed translations. Mainstream Assyriologists argue Anunnaki refers to a pantheon, not aliens. Yet even mainstream accounts admit something striking: the persistence of the descent motif across centuries, across cities, and across genres of text. From creation myths to royal hymns, the Anunnaki are not remote, they intervene. Anthropology offers a middle ground. Throughout history, encounters with more advanced outsiders are mythologized. To islanders who saw European ships for the first time, foreigners seemed divine. Could something similar explain the Anunnaki? Advanced groups, perhaps from outside Mesopotamia, arrive, teach, and depart, their memory fossilized as those who came down. The Anunnaki endure because they embody this mystery. Whether gods, myths, or memories, they represent the moment when humanity attributed knowledge to something beyond itself. When the tablets say civilization was bestowed, do we dismiss it as poetry, or take seriously the possibility that memory, myth, and history are intertwined? Interpreting Sumerian texts is no simple task. Unlike modern languages, Sumerian signs carry multiple meanings. A phrase can shift from descended from the heavens to of royal lineage, depending on context. Archaeology compounds the challenge. Thousands of tablets lie broken, eroded, or buried. Even complete tablets often lack context, like random pages torn from a vast book. What story are we missing? Mainstream scholars lean cautious, attributing anomalies to symbolism or exaggeration. Fringe theorists leap to extraterrestrials. Both extremes distort. The truth lies in the difficult middle ground, piecing fragments, accepting uncertainty, and resisting the urge to claim final answers. Discoveries like Göbekli Tepe remind us how fragile certainties can be. Before its excavation, no one imagined 11,000-year-old megaliths aligned to the stars. Overnight, our timelines shifted. What else lies buried beneath Mesopotamian soil? The Anunnaki debate reflects not only on the past, but on how we interpret history itself. Do we trust the text at face value, filter it through skepticism, or admit the limits of our knowledge? If half the book is missing and the rest is smudged, what story do we swear is true? We've walked through dusty libraries of clay tablets, traced flood myths across cultures, and stood in awe at the precision of Sumer's star charts. Again and again, the Sumerians tell us the same thing. We were taught. The Anunnaki remain enigmatic, gods to some, metaphors to others, memories to a few, but their legacy endures. Whether through divine myths, cultural diffusion, or human ingenuity sanctified by story, they shaped the first civilization. Perhaps the truth is layered. Observation and trade built a foundation. Myth transformed experience into memory. The Anunnaki symbolized authority, encoded instruction, and preserved awe. The story of Sumer is not just about the past. It's about how humans everywhere explain leaps of knowledge. We attribute them to gods, to ancestors, to teachers from above, because knowledge feels like a gift, not an accident. So we return to the question, who taught the teachers? And if answers still lie beneath Mesopotamia's sands, how will they change the story we tell about ourselves?